I never thought I'd be the guy to get blindsided like this. Jennifer and I had been together for about 5 years. We met in college, fell hard, got engaged, and everything was supposed to be perfect. I mean, I always believed in us, in the idea that we were a team. We had our ups and downs, yeah, but nothing that seemed insurmountable. Until I started noticing small things, little red flags that I ignored because I wanted to believe she was faithful. It started about a month ago. Jennifer became secretive with her phone. She'd hide it whenever I walked into the room, kept her notifications turned off, and started going out with her friends more often, claiming it was just girls' night. At first, I thought maybe she was just trying to find herself again, or maybe she was stressed from work. She was always bitchy when I'd ask her about her plans, snapping at me that I was just paranoid or that I was reading too much into it. But I knew her too well. Something was off. Then came the worst part. I found her makeup bag one day when I was cleaning up. Nothing unusual. On the surface, lipstick, some powder, a few brushes. But then I noticed a small, torn piece of fabric I'd never seen before. It was dark, almost like a black shirt. I thought maybe it was from her sister or one of her friends, so I didn't think too much about it until a week later. I kept that scrap in my pocket, just a little reminder that something wasn't right. The real shocker hit me out of nowhere. I was sitting at my desk one evening, poring over some work emails when I got a text message. It wasn't even for me. It was from a number I didn't recognize, but the message was clear and unmistakable. "Can't wait to see you tonight. Miss you already." The "you" was addressed to Jennifer, but the sender's name was just a string of random numbers. My heart started pounding. I knew it was meant for her because I'd seen enough of her texts to know her style: flirty, dismissive of my feelings, and clearly not innocent. At first, I thought maybe it was some mistake. Maybe it was a coworker or her sister. But then I saw the timestamp, just a few hours before I was supposed to come home. I froze. My mind went into overdrive. Who was this guy? What the hell was she doing? I looked up her recent call logs and messages, but she'd already deleted everything. That's when I started to really feel the ground shift beneath my feet. I knew with absolute certainty that Jennifer had been sneaking around and lying to my face about everything. I couldn't sleep that night. The betrayal hit me hard, like an axe to the chest. I kept asking myself how I missed all the signs, how I could have been so blind. I thought about our future, the wedding we were planning just a few weeks away. I'd always believed in honesty, in loyalty, in love. And here I was, faced with the brutal truth that the woman I was supposed to marry had been unfaithful to me with my best friend. That's the kind of thing that tears everything apart. And I knew this wasn't going to be easy to fix, if it was even fixable at all. The next morning, I couldn't even look at Jennifer the same way. The betrayal had rooted itself deep inside, and every time I saw her, I felt this mixture of anger, hurt, and disappointment. I knew I had to confront her, but I didn't want to do it blindly. I needed proof, I needed to hear it from her mouth, and I needed to do it carefully because I knew this was going to be explosive. That day, I decided to follow her. I didn't want her to sense I was onto her, not yet. So I waited until she left for what she said was a meeting with her boss, but I knew better. I followed her from a distance. She got into her car and I trailed behind at a safe distance, watching her pull into a parking lot of a small, nondescript apartment complex. My stomach knotted. I parked nearby and waited, heart pounding, trying to keep calm. About 10 minutes later, I saw her come out, looking flushed, her face flushed and her hair slightly tousled. She was holding a bag and she looked like she'd been crying. I was furious, but I also felt a sick sense of helplessness. If she was cheating on me, what was I supposed to do? Was this just a fling, or was this something serious? My mind raced with questions, but I knew I'd get answers soon enough. The worst part was that I recognized the guy she went into the apartment with. It was my best friend, Mike. The guy I'd trusted with my life, the guy I'd shared everything with. And he was the one she was sneaking around with. It was like a punch to the stomach all over again. I couldn't believe it. My wife, who I'd planned to marry in just a few weeks, was doing this with my best friend behind my back. I kept watching as she went inside and stayed there for a good hour. When she finally came out, she looked even more upset, probably trying to hide it, but I could tell. That's when I knew I had enough. I couldn't just keep pretending I didn't see this. I had to confront her, but I also had to be strategic. I wasn't going to let her gaslight me or lie her way out of this. I had the proof, and I was ready to face her. That evening, I waited until she was back home. She walked in, acting like nothing was wrong, but I was already boiling with rage. I didn't give her a chance to spin her stories. I pulled her into the living room, looked her dead in the eyes, and said, "We need to talk. I know everything." Her face went pale for a split second, then she looked annoyed, like I was just being dramatic. "What are you talking about? You're overreacting as usual," she snapped, trying to brush past me. That's when I pulled out the evidence. Photos I took of her going into the apartment with Mike, the message I found, everything. Her face twisted into a sneer. "I can explain," she said, but her voice was shaky and her eyes darted around. "It's not what you think. It was a mistake. It's just sex, okay? It doesn't mean anything. We're just—" She paused and then added dismissively, "It's not your business." That was when I lost it. I didn't want to hear her lie anymore. I told her I saw everything, that I knew about her affair, that she had been lying for weeks. Her reaction was to get defensive, call me paranoid, say I was overthinking it. She even had the nerve to accuse me of not trusting her, like she was the victim here. But I wasn't buying any of her bullshit. I was sick to my stomach, feeling like I'd been punched in the gut every time she tried to deny it. I felt the betrayal gnaw at my soul. It wasn't just the cheating. It was the way she lied with such ease, as if I was just some guy she was tolerating. Her bitchy attitude, her dismissiveness, her constant excuses, they all made me realize how little she cared about me. I sat there stunned, trying to process how everything that I thought was real was just a lie. That's when I knew this was beyond repair. The trust was gone, shattered into pieces, and there was no way I could just forget about it. After the initial confrontation, everything spiraled even faster than I expected. Jennifer kept insisting it was just a fling, that it didn't mean anything, and that I was blowing things out of proportion. She called me paranoid, an overreaction. Honestly, I'd never seen her so dismissive, so cold. It was like she was trying to gaslight me into believing I was overreacting, as if her betrayal was just a minor mistake. But I knew better. I felt the pain, the betrayal, the sickening realization that my whole relationship had been a lie. The worst part was her attitude. She kept saying, "You're just jealous," or "You're insecure," every time I pressed her about the affair. She even had the audacity to call me controlling when I asked her who the guy was, or why she'd lied to me for so long. That bitchy attitude, the way she dismissed my feelings, made me furious. I'd never seen her like this, so bitchy, so manipulative. It was like she was trying to turn the tables and make me feel guilty for catching her. But I wasn't going to let her play that game. I started digging through her phone, trying to find more proof, more of her lies. I wanted to see exactly how deep the rabbit hole went, and that's when I found the messages. Damn, the messages were explicit. They weren't just "I miss you" texts. They were full-on sex talk, plans to meet up, sneaky emojis, all that bullshit. She was actively lying, actively screwing around behind my back. I'd never felt so betrayed in my life. I was in shock. I mean, how could she do this to me, to us? We had plans, dreams, a wedding just around the corner, and she was out there cheating on me with my supposed best friend. I wasn't just hurt, I was furious. I kept thinking about all those nights I stayed up, working late, trying to be a good husband, and meanwhile she was out screwing around. I felt like a fool. I couldn't just walk away, not yet. I needed to plan my next move. I knew I couldn't trust her anymore, but I also knew I needed a way to make her pay for what she did. I started thinking about how I could turn the tables, how I could make her understand that betrayal like this had consequences. I wasn't just going to walk out and leave her to her lies. No, I wanted her to feel what it was like to lose everything: trust, love, respect. She wanted to be a bitch and lie her way through it. Fine. I'd show her what real revenge looked like. That night I stayed up late, drafting my plan. I knew I had to do something that would shake her to her core. I wanted her to realize that she'd crossed a line she couldn't come back from. I wasn't just going to divorce her quietly. Oh no, I was going to make her see what she lost. I wanted her to feel the pain of betrayal, the guilt of what she did. It was going to be deliberate, calculated. I'd turn her world upside down, and she'd regret ever messing with me and my best friend. I also knew I'd have to be smart about this. I couldn't just explode and scream. That wouldn't serve my purpose. I needed her to see I was serious, that I had the proof, and that I wasn't going to back down. I started preparing little things, recorded conversations, more screenshots, plans for confronting her publicly if I had to. Because I knew deep down that once I started this, there was no turning back. And honestly, I didn't care anymore. She pushed me too far. The betrayal had broken something inside me, and I was determined to make her pay for it. The next few days were a blur of planning and inner turmoil. I couldn't focus on anything else. Every time I saw Jennifer's face, I felt this mix of rage and heartbreak. That bitchy attitude she threw around, her constant lies, it all fed my resolve to make her regret what she'd done. I knew I had to be careful, though. If I went in guns blazing, I'd lose control and ruin everything. I needed a solid plan, something precise that would hit her where it hurt the most. I started by gathering even more evidence, screenshots of every text, every explicit message, every call log I could find. I also set up a few secret recordings, just in case I needed to catch her in a lie or get her to slip up. My goal was to make her realize how badly she'd screwed up, how much she'd lose if she kept playing her games. And I also wanted to make her feel small, insignificant, like she was nothing but a cheating bitch who thought she could get away with it. One night I decided to confront her directly. I wanted her to see that I was serious, that I wasn't going to let her bullshit her way out of this. She was lying on the couch, scrolling her phone, acting like she didn't have a care in the world. I sat down across from her, took a deep breath, and laid everything out on the table. "I know about the affair," I said, voice calm but firm. "I have everything. The messages, the calls, the proof that you've been screwing around with Mike, my best friend. Do you want to try and deny it now?" Her eyes widened and she blinked a few times like she was trying to process what I just said. Then she scoffed. "You're crazy. I don't know what you're talking about. You're just jealous because I'm pretty and you're insecure." I couldn't believe her audacity. She was still trying to gaslight me, to make me feel like this was all in my head, but I had the evidence and I wasn't about to let her lie her way out of it. I pulled out my phone, showed her the screenshots, the explicit messages. Her face turned red and her eye twitched. "That's not me," she hissed. "Someone's framing me. You're just trying to ruin my life because you're insecure and jealous." I shook my head. "No, Jennifer, you're the one who's insecure. That's why you're cheating, because you think you can get away with it. Well, I'm not going to let you. I want a divorce. You can keep your lies, but I'm done pretending everything's okay." Her reaction was shocking. She started crying, but not because she was sorry, more like she was furious. "You're an idiot," she spat. "You think I want a divorce after everything we built? I'm not some whore, you know. I was just having some fun. It doesn't mean I don't love you. You're overreacting. I'll fix this." That's when I saw her true colors. She was bitchy, manipulative, and so full of lies that I wondered how I ever trusted her in the first place. The betrayal cut so deep, I felt like I was drowning in it. I told her straight up that I didn't believe her, and I wasn't going to stay silent anymore. This was the end of the line for us. Over the next few days, I executed my plan for revenge. I started subtly causing disruptions in her life, sending her fake texts from her supposed lover, planting little clues that hinted I knew everything. I even went as far as calling her bluff, pretending I was okay with her staying with Mike if that's what made her happy, just to watch her squirm. I couldn't let her think she was still in control. I wanted her to feel the chaos she'd brought into my life, to understand that her actions had consequences. And I wasn't just planning to walk away quietly. No, I wanted her to realize she'd lost more than just my trust. I wanted her to see that her bitchy attitude and lies had pushed me to the edge. I was done being the nice guy. It was payback time. I was going to make sure she suffered just enough to understand how badly she'd screwed up, how she'd thrown away everything we had for some fleeting sex with my best friend. That's what she deserved, nothing less. The days that followed were a storm of calculated moves. I made sure to keep my cool, but inside I was seething. Every little thing I did was aimed at making her realize she didn't just cheat, she tore apart what we had. And she did it with my supposed best friend. I wanted her to feel the weight of her betrayal, to see that I was serious about ending this, about making her regret ever crossing that line. I started dropping hints, leaving little clues that I knew everything. I sent her fake texts from someone claiming to be her lover, just to see how she'd react. She took the bait every time, getting defensive, snappy, trying to cover her tracks. It was perfect. I even made some anonymous calls, pretending to be someone who knew her secret just to keep her paranoid. She was unraveling, and I loved every second of watching her squirm. One evening, I finally decided to push her a little further. I staged a scene, set up a situation where she'd think I'd caught her with Mike again. I wanted her to see that I knew all her tricks, that I wasn't going to be played anymore. I called her out in front of her friends, claiming I had proof she was cheating again. She denied it at first, but her face told another story. She was scared, cornered, and furious. "Look," I said, voice steady, "I have everything. The texts, the photos, the calls. You can keep lying, but I'm not stupid. I know what you've been doing. And honestly, I don't want to be with someone who's been lying to my face for months. You want to pretend it's just sex, that it doesn't matter, fine. But I'm done pretending I don't know. I want a divorce." She snapped back, trying to act all innocent, but her bitchy attitude was gone. Now she looked like a trapped animal. "You're just overreacting," she spat. "You're insecure. You think you're so perfect, but you're not. I can do better than you anyway." That was the moment I realized I'd completely broken her. She thought she could manipulate her way out of this, but she'd lost control. Her lies were exposed, and she knew it. The final blow was when I handed her the folder I'd prepared, all the evidence, neatly compiled. Her eyes widened as she saw the proof of her infidelity laid out in front of her. It was like watching her fall apart right then and there. I didn't want to drag this out anymore. I told her I was done, that I was filing for divorce, and that I wanted nothing to do with her anymore. She tried to plead, to cry, but it was too late. The damage was done. That bitchy attitude she'd thrown around was replaced by silence, by cold anger. She knew she'd lost everything she ever wanted: my trust, my love, my respect. And honestly, I didn't care. She had pushed me too far, and I was finally taking back what was mine. The aftermath was brutal. I moved out, took some time to breathe and reflect. I felt emptier than I'd ever felt, but also strangely relieved. I realized I'd been naive, believing that love could somehow fix betrayal. But what I learned is that some betrayals cut so deep, they leave scars you can't ignore. I was broken, sure, but I also felt free. I got my life back, and I promised myself I'd never let someone treat me like that again. As for her, well, I hope she gets exactly what she deserves, because I sure as hell won't be there to pick up the pieces anymore. In the end, I realized that betrayal doesn't just hurt. It shatters everything you thought you knew. About loyalty, about love, about trust. Looking back, I see how blind I was, how much I wanted to believe that everything was perfect, that she was the woman I loved. But the truth hit harder than I expected. She was willing to throw it all away for some sex, some fleeting thrill with my best friend. The betrayal was like a punch to the gut, and it changed me forever. I've learned a lot from this experience. First, trust isn't something you should take for granted. People can hide their true colors for a long time, and sometimes you only see the truth when it's too late. Second, I realized that revenge isn't about hurting someone just for the sake of it. It's about reclaiming your dignity, your sanity, your self-respect. I had to show her that I wasn't going to be played or lied to anymore, and that I deserved better. Most importantly, I've come to accept that sometimes love isn't enough. You can be honest, loyal, caring, but if the other person isn't willing to do the same, then the entire foundation crumbles. It's painful to admit, but some people are just not meant to be in your life. Better to cut ties sooner rather than later, especially when the betrayal is so deep that healing feels impossible. Now, I focus on rebuilding myself. I've started going to therapy, trying to understand why I let things get this far, why I trusted her so blindly. I've learned to set boundaries, to value myself more, and to recognize red flags early. I've also cut out all her lies and her bitchy attitude. No more games, no more pretending I didn't see what was right in front of me. I know I'll recover, and I know I'll find someone who truly values me. To anyone out there going through something similar, trust your instincts. Don't ignore the signs, no matter how much you want to believe in fairy tales. And if you find yourself betrayed, remember that your worth isn't defined by their actions. You deserve honesty, loyalty, respect, and if you don't get that, walk away. It's a pain, but it's also a lesson. And sometimes the only way to find yourself again is to let go of what was never meant to be.